è uscito da pochissimo un nuovo modello Gemini realizzato da Google che batte su tutti i benchmark GPT4. Mi trovo qui con Antonio e faremo insieme la reaction a questo nuovo modello. Vedremo un po' le prestazioni.
You know, one of the reasons we got interested in AI from the very beginning is that we always viewed our mission as a timeless mission. It's to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful.
I leader.
But as information has grown in scale and complexity, you know, the problem has gotten harder. So we always knew we needed to have a deeper breakthrough to make progress.
Loro fanno il breakthrough dopo se li fanno rubare.
My whole life because I've always felt
Chi è questo?
the most beneficial and consequential technology.
Questo è il CEO di DeepMind.
In our society we have 5 senses and the world we built and the media we consume is in those
un bel pippone sulle
super proud and excited to announce the launch of the Gemini.
Andiamo sulla ciccia.
Towards a truly universal AI model.
The Gemini approach to multimodality is all the kinds of things you want an artificial intelligence system to be able to do. And these are capabilities that haven't really existed in computers before.
Traditionally, multimodal models are created by stitching together
text
only, vision only and audio only.
E questo è come è fatto GPT4, una serie di modelli, no? Specializzati in cose
Gemini is
diverse.
multimodal from the ground up, so it can seamlessly have a
Questo è
conversation
figo.
across modalities and give you the best possible response.
Gemini is our largest and most capable model. It means that Gemini
Se l'hanno fatto veramente multimodale,
around us in the way that we do and absorb
farà la
any type of
differenza.
input and output. So not just text like most models, but also code, audio, image and video. What's amazing about Gemini is that it's so good at so many things. As we started getting to the end of the training, we started seeing that Gemini was better than any other model out there on these very, very important benchmarks. For example, each of the 50
Gemini
different
Ultra,
subject areas that we tested
90%.
on, it's as good as the best expert humans in those areas.
It's very rare that you can work on a technology at a foundational level and it simultaneously can impact all our products.
Certo che
We
impatta
created
tutto.
a family of models that can run on everything from mobile devices to data centers, each
Addirittura.
of which is actually best in class.
Ma quello sul mobile vedremo.
Available in 3 sizes. Gemini Ultra, our most capable and largest model for
Ultra
highly
sarebbe
complex tasks. Gemini Pro,
la
our best
bestia.
performing model
Il
for
Pro
a
sarebbe il
broad range of
GPT3
tasks,
di
and
turno.
Gemini Nano, our most efficient model
E
for
il Nano
on-device
interessante.
We want to
Il
provide
Nano
the best
se
foundation
riesce a girare veramente su un telefono, tanta roba.
Developers and enterprise customers are going to figure out really creative ways to further refine our Gemini foundational models, and the potential's almost limitless.
So at Google, there's this healthy disregard for the impossible, and that has oriented us to be both bold and responsible together. As these systems become more capable, all of those capabilities also raise new questions.
We have to think about what it means to have an image be a part of, for example, the input. Because an image might be innocuous on its own,
Esatto,
or text
l'immagine
might
può
be
avere il
innocuous on its
testo.
own, but the combination could be offensive or hurtful.
Certo.
Safety and responsibility has to be built in from the beginning. And at Google DeepMind, that's what we've done with Gemini.
We develop proactive policies
pure da
and
parte
adapt
di
those to the
safety.
unique
Ci sta.
considerations of multimodal
Per essere Google, se
capabilities.
non lo fanno
We
loro.
then do rigorous testing against those policies to
Ma
prevent the
quelli-
harms that we've identified with approaches like classifiers and filters.
If I were to look at the foundational breakthroughs in AI over the past decade, Google has been at the forefront of many of those breakthroughs.
Ma questo è vero, loro hanno fatto il paper Attention is all you need. E grazie a quel paper poi OpenAI ha costruito tutto e loro non ci hanno guadagnato niente, anzi, hanno creato dei competitor.
And I think Gemini
Sicuro
continues
qualcosa
that
hanno
rich
guadagnato.
Ho
tradition.
capito, ma
It's
cioè, fanno i breakthrough, non li sfruttano.
an
Vediamo
enormous
che
sort of
Vediamo un
monumental
po'.
engineering task, which has been, very challenging but also very exciting.
I have been at Google for quite a
Tutti
while.
contenti, so.
And the reason I'm here is
Oh,
really
yeah.
Abbiamo qualcosa per fare competizione
and I think
OpenAI,
Gemini is a
vai.
great step in that overall mission.
We end up with a world that has more knowledge and that people have more access to information that otherwise
Questo
would not be
sicuramente.
available to them.
That's what excites me, the chance to make AI helpful for everyone, everywhere in the world.
E vabbè, questo è il video,
Questa
penso.
era la bella storiella.
La storiella finale. Ma adesso andiamo veramente a vedere la ciccia. Allora, Gemini Ultra è il modello più grande e più potente per complex tasks. Poi hanno Gemini Pro che è wide range of tasks, quindi questo sarebbe il GPT-4 loro, il GPT3 loro, e Gemini Nano è la novità perché hanno fatto un device tasks, quindi sarà un modello che si potrà mettere su device piccoli, su telefoni addirittura, magari sul Pixel lo metteranno. Ed è interessante perché fino ad ora non ci stava nessuna azienda di questo calibro ad aver creato un modello specificatamente per dispositivi mobili. State of the art, vediamo un po' le performance. Allora, sul testo, la comparazione è tra Gemini Ultra e GPT-4 su diverse capacità e vediamo che lo batte, qua lo perde contro OpenAI, batte.
Sì, task.
Quindi qua abbiamo generale, MMLU e il benchmark. Allora, rappresentazione di question di domande in 57 subjects, quindi domande su topic differenti, sì, su materie differenti. Poi reasoning, ci stanno questi 3 dataset e solamente su la swag perde. Matematica è più potente. Codice lo sponda pure qua. Multimodale, questo è interessante, multimodale, perché dicono che il modello è stato creato da zero per essere nativamente multimodale e non un ammasso di modelli che poi insieme fanno un modello multimodale. Quindi qua abbiamo un 3% più quasi, qua lo batte di parecchio, lo batte, qua lo batte su tutto, sulla multimodalità.
Graphic understanding, 5% in più.
Qua è tanto, Infographic understanding. Allora, sophisticated reasoning. Quindi il ragionamento sofisticato, andiamo al prossimo video.
A common problem scientists face is the need to find and use data extracted
Vediamo
from
un po' che
scientific
hanno
literature. This is difficult because scientists need to search among thousands of scientific papers for key
Sì.
information and extract them by hand. It's a very common workflow and very time-consuming. In fact, some of our scientists at Google DeepMind face this very problem. They use Gemini to help with it because Gemini has an incredible understanding of science. Taylor will explain more.
So we were looking at this study from 2022. The authors had created a data set by reviewing tens of thousands of scientific papers in genetics. They found a few hundred papers that contained the relevant information, extracted it by hand, and collected it in a table.
Che lavoraccio.
Studies like this can take a lot of time. We needed to update this data set with what's new over the last couple of years. But that's over 200,000 new open access papers added to this domain since 2021. We couldn't do this manually, so we asked Gemini to help us out. First, we needed to filter for relevant scientific papers.
Aspetta. Hanno fatto il prompt. Questo è il prompt di sistema. Il tuo lavoro è quello di leggere il paper, il titolo, l'abstract.
With its advanced reasoning capabilities, Gemini was able to distinguish between papers that were relevant to the study and those that weren't.
Quindi lo fanno
For the
classificare.
relevant papers, we wrote a similar prompt, asking Gemini to read the paper and extract the key data for us. We could even ask Gemini to add annotations. This showed us exactly where in the paper Gemini found the information. We ran this at scale.
Questo è interessante pure.
And over a lunch break, Gemini read 200,000 papers for us, filtered it down to 250, and extracted their data. So now we have a refreshed version of this data set. But because Gemini is multimodal, not only can it reason about information from text, it can also reason about figures. So let me show you something really neat. With our refreshed data set, we can now ask Gemini to update a graph from the original study. We first gave Gemini a screenshot of this figure. Then we asked it to generate the code required to plot it. And by feeding this code our new data set, we get our updated figure. You can see that this figure now includes data up until 2023.
Cioè hanno fatto lo screenshot del grafico che stava nella ricerca in questo paper e gli hanno detto guarda abbiamo dato in pasto questi altri paper degli ultimi anni, aggiornaci il grafico. E l'ha aggiornato. Cioè possiamo vedere qua
GPT questo
non credo che lo fa.
Guarda l'immagine, magari capisce il codice.
So Taylor used Gemini to search large corpus of literature for relevant papers and extract key information from these papers, as well as update figures. Of course, these capabilities can help more than just biologists or even scientists. They extend naturally to any domain that is reliant on large datasets, such as law or finance. So that's what Gemini can make possible. and we are excited to see what you will create with Gemini.
Oh, vediamo. Questo è molto interessante, eh? Sophisticated reasoning. Poi ci sta la parte understanding text, images, audio and more. Vediamo quest'altro pure.
As a parent, you may have to help your kid with their homework. I've certainly had to. Here's where Gemini can help. For this demo, we've created a simple interface, and with some clever prompting under the hood, we can really leverage Gemini's math, reasoning, and multimodal capabilities to learn a subject like physics.
Hanno messo il toggle
you
per
can
vedere il
upload a
prompt.
photo of handwritten answers on a worksheet. Not only can Gemini solve these problems, but this is the amazing part. It can read the answers and understand what was right and what was wrong, and explain the concepts that need more clarification. So Gemini identified some mistakes with problems 1 and 3 here.
Let's take a look at 3.
Cioè, su esercizi scritti a mano, capisci se l'hai fatto bene o no.
That the formula was correct, but there was a mistake in calculating
Esercizi di
height.
fisica.
We can ask Gemini to explain in more details why the height is 50 meters instead of 6.
Più forte di me sicuro l'esercizio.
Ah, questo sicuro.
I can ask Gemini to explain further.
Questo è bellissimo. Cioè, agli studenti adesso questo tool veramente gli esercizi, gli esami, fai la foto, fa direttamente tutto. Guarda.
Because of Gemini's ability to understand nuanced information,
Ma queste immagini le genera il modello, queste qua a
complicated
sinistra.
topics, it can give you a customized explanation of the subject you're trying to learn. And lastly, if you want to learn more, you can just ask.
Practice, facciamo pratica.
Gemini provide personalized practice problems based on mistakes.
Sì, ti crea pure degli esercizi, ti crea.
Problem where I have to figure out the cat's speed. The height of the ramp is double.
Questa interfaccia qua è figa.
È cliccabile pure.
Oh yeah, I knew that.
Pazzi! Cioè, genera le immagini, ti risolve gli esercizi, ti crea gli esercizi specifici per te per migliorare sui tuoi errori. Cioè, questo è bellissimo. Advanced coding. Andiamo pure su quest'altro, vediamo un po'.
We built Gemini from the ground up to be natively multimodal. We built important for both of us, programming code. Gemini is able to consistently understand, explain, and generate code that is correct and well-written in most programming languages. That includes Python, Java, C++, and Go.
Chissà perché solo questi 4. Che hanno messo più di oltre 16 linguaggi, no, 4 hanno messo.
Functions in Python. It consistently solves about 75% of them in the first try, versus around 45% on Palm 2.
Scarso Palm 2.
If you allow Gemini to check and repair its own answers, this number jumps to over 90%, which is a huge step forward.
90%.
It can help you create and prototype new ideas in seconds. Let's give it a try.
Non l'hanno detto però GPT4.
And if I wanted to create
citano Palm 2, chi lo usa?
I can simply ask and get a working prototype in less than a minute. While the code isn't perfect, it's really helpful to have a first draft. Gemini on its own has the ability to transform software development as we understand it, but it can also be deployed as a key component of more sophisticated systems.
Gemini is great at coding, but we've been able to take it even further, creating a specialized version that performs remarkably well at competitive programming. Now, why do we care about competitive programming? Well, it is one of
Quindi toglieteli da Google questi esercizi di competitive programming, se adesso avete Gemini che fa tutto.
Abilities. So you have thousands of talented programmers from all over the world
in live
non assumono
più nessuno
complex problems that require not only coding but also math and reasoning. 2 years ago, we presented AlphaCode, and it was the first AI system that could compete roughly at the level of the average human competitor. Today, I'm delighted to introduce AlphaCode 2.
Hanno lasciato AlphaCode 2
system with massively improved performance, powered by Gemini. When we evaluate
AlphaCode, il fine tuning di Gemini per il codice.
As the original AlphaCode, we solve almost twice as many problems. While AlphaCode broke through the top half of human competitors, on average, we estimate that AlphaCode 2 performs better than 85% of competition participants. Let's have a look at our model in action on one of the hardest problems that we faced. And I say hard because in the original contest in which the problem appeared, less than 0.2% of participants actually solved it. The problem is quite difficult. It's very abstract. So I can't get into too many details, but the basic gist of it is that we are tasked with computing aggregate statistics that account for what appears to be an impossibly large amount of random arrays. The really cool thing is that to solve it, AlphaCode 2 makes use of dynamic programming. Dynamic programming is an advanced algorithmic technique which basically simplifies a complicated problem by breaking it down into easier subproblems again and again. And what's really impressive is that not only AlphaCode 2 knows how to properly implement this strategy, but also when and where to use it.
Spero di no, perché sennò che test mi fai vedere?
It's not just about implementation. It's also about
lo invalidi se già lo sapeva.
Computer science, and indeed coding. And that makes it an extremely hard reasoning task. So it's not very surprising that up till now, generally available large language models have scored very poorly on this benchmark. These models are really, really good at following instructions, but AlphaCode needs to do more than that. It needs to show some level of understanding, some level of reasoning, designing of code solutions before it can actually get to the actual implementation to solve the problem. And it does all that on problems that it's never seen before. Another thing that is great about AlphaCode is that it performs even better when it collaborates with human coders who can provide grounding. Basically, developers can specify properties that the code samples have to obey. And when we do that, we see performance increase significantly. We think of this kind of interaction between programmers and AIs as the future of programming.
Sicuramente sarà futuro. Tu che guardi il codice che si scrive solo e gli dici un attimo come devi modificarlo. Il pair programming dove tu sei quello passivo.
AlphaCode 2 was built for competitive programming, but we're already working on bringing some of its unique capabilities right into the general Gemini models as a first step towards making this new programming paradigm available for everyone.
Ed ecco qua la parte coding. Hanno sganciato st'altra bomba. Che altro è rimasto? Oh! Queste sono tutte le TPU che hanno usato? Hanno addestrato Gemini. Tensor Processing Units. Sì, sono le TPU V4 e V5.
Stanno già pure le TPU.
Ma già ce l'aveva Google tutte queste TPU. Poi hanno fatto efficient, esatto, questo hanno fatto Cloud TPU V5P designed, hanno fatto specifico per addestrare questi cutting edge AI models. Questo è importante, si concentra su responsibility, safety dei modelli, non le possono lanciare così sul commercio come fa OpenAI. Ecco, is rolling out across a range of products and platform. Però quando è che lo rilasciano? 170 nazioni. Sul Pixel 8 lo metteranno. Sarà il primo telefono che avrà queste AI. Fighissimo questo.
Dicembre 13 dice. Poi il tasso
dice, 13 dicembre? 13 dicembre allora. Gemini Ultra arriverà dopo ovviamente. E queste erano tutte le news, ragazzi. Abbiamo visto i video, la presentazione di Gemini, questo nuovo modello realizzato da Google. Dicono e sembra una bomba, sembra veramente potente in tutti i task, è multimodale, batte GPT4 in tutti in benchmark. Staremo a vedere.
Staremo a vedere.
Scrivimi un commento dicendomi la tua e ci vediamo al prossimo video. Ciao!